Guten Tag alle, Herr Wallis here. Today we're going to talk about separable prefix verbs in German and how they are used and formed in a number of tenses. Separable prefix verbs are quite common, and prefixes can change the meaning of a verb quite drastically in some instances. So it's important how you know to know how they are used and how they are what their changes are in a variety of different tenses. So before we start, let's look at some common separable prefix verbs. And there are a number of different separable prefixes. Some of them will be represented here, such as ab, an, or zu. So for example, abfahren, to depart, ausziehen, to take off, anrufen, to call up, mitkommen, to accompany, anziehen, to put on, ausziehen, to take off, wegfahren, to drive away, vorbereiten, to prepare for, ankommen, to arrive at, beibringen, to educate or to teach, aufbauen, to build up, einatmen, to breathe in, ausgehen, to go out, stattfinden, to take place, zusammenbauen, to build, to gather, assemble, zurückgehen, to go back, festlegen, to establish, dabei bleiben, to stay, and hingehen, to go away, and herkommen, to come from. So these are just some examples, and you see a wide variety of separable prefixes, and for a full list of those you want to check out our video over that topic. So let's talk about the present tense first. When you are forming a present tense sentence in German with a separable prefix verb, the prefix becomes separated from the root of the verb, and it's always placed at the end of the sentence, whether a statement or a question. The only possible exception to this is if it is coming after a subordinating conjunction. But in the most cases, present tense, okay, we think prefix at the end. So ich ziehe meine Jacke an, I put my jacket on, or I am putting my jacket on. Remember, in German, you don't have the present progressive tense per se. You have the present and present progressive all combined into ich, for example, ich ziehe. It could be I put or I am putting the jacket on. Der Zug fährt ab. Das Treffen findet heute statt. Ich gehe hin. Ich rufe dich an. Bereitet den Vortrag vor. Atme ganz tief ein. Ich komme mit und wir bleiben dabei. So if we were to turn these around, these are statements and we want to make them into questions, we simply begin with the verb followed by the subject, but our prefix is still at the end. So for example, siehst du deine Jacke an? Fährt der Zug ab? Findet das Treffen heute statt? Gehst du hin? Rufst du mich an? Bereitet seinen Vortrag vor? Atmest du tief ein? Kommst du mit? Bleibst du dabei? Okay, so in the future tense, we're going to, or when used with modal verbs, the prefix in a separable prefix verb will be added back together, and it will appear at the end of the sentence in its infinitive form. So let's look at this in the future tense in German. The future tense in German is formed by a conjugation of the verb werden. But one note here, remember also that in German, the present tense can sometimes double as the future tense, depending on context, and it often does. So just keep that in mind. But here we are using a conjugation of the form of the verb werden. So ich werde meine Jacke anziehen is I will put the jacket on. Here you see anziehen is back together in it with its infinitive form here at the end. Der Zug wird abfahren, das Treffen wird heute stattfinden, ich werde hingehen, ich werde dich anrufen, wird den Vortrag vorbereiten, ich werde ganz tief einatmen, ich werde mitkommen und wir werden dabei bleiben. Now, if we use modal verbs, and modal verbs are a class of 6 verbs in German that always push the other verb to the end of the sentence and put it in its infinitive form. So the modal verbs are können, müssen, wollen, sollen, dürfen, and mögen. And here we have the different conjugations of these verbs. The first example, for example, first person singular, ich kann. So we have anziehen together at the end. So ich kann meine Jacke anziehen. Der Zug muss abfahren. Das Treffen soll heute stattfinden. Ich darf hingehen. Ich will dich anrufen. Kann den Vortrag vorbereiten. Ich mag ganz tief einatmen. Ich muss mitkommen und wir sollen dabei bleiben. So these are examples. Now, when we are forming the past participle of separable prefix verbs. This would be when we are using the present perfect, or sometimes called the conversational past tense in German. The GE is placed after the separable prefix and before the rest of the participle. Basic verbs in German will form like, for example, lernen ist gelernt, or machen ist gemacht, and hören ist gehört. But for separable prefix verbs, that GE is going to be in the middle, and the rest of the verb will change. Its past participle forms will change depending on the verb, and we have a video that explains that more in detail also. So here's some examples. Ich habe meine Jacke angezogen, so I put on my jacket. Der Zug ist abgefahren. Das Treffen hat heute stattgefunden. Ich bin hingegangen. Ich habe dich angerufen. Er hat den Vortrag vorbereitet. Ich habe ganz tief eingeatmet. Ich bin mitgekommen und wir sind dabei geblieben. So these are examples of the present perfect tense using separable prefix verbs. And you'll notice, just as a little side here, that the helping verb will be haben, or a form of sein, and this will change, and there's a video explaining that also. Okay. So here I basically said it. Our video is on germanforspalding.org under the Herr Wallace's YouTube links. Just look for the present perfect tense and how to form it, and you'll see these videos there. Okay, and then yes. So bereiten, vorbereiten belongs to a smaller group of verbs in German that does not form its past participle with the addition of GE. Therefore, it does not have one here, and I just wanted to point that out. Okay, vielen Dank. Ich glaube, das war's. Thank you for watching. I hope it was informative and that you learned something. Good luck learning German. Viel Glück mit dem Deutsch und auf Wiedersehen.